And a welcome here to you on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora here on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com /WakeUpCallDT, as well as on Facebook Live on Facebook.com /LiveNowDT, hanging out inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios with 5 locations here in our community on 324 West Water Street, as well as 208 North Townsend Street, 3501 James Street, and 401 South Salina Street, and the newest location on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. It is my absolute pleasure to be inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you and with the man of the hour, Mr. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, as well as our joint venture on Facebook, our group, Winning Fantasy Football. So let's bring the man in. I cannot believe it's week 17, but I'm proud that it is. Mr. Sofka, first and foremost, before I say happy week 17, may I wish you publicly a very happy birthday, as I know that this is your birthday week, and I hope that you are not doing a day. I hope that Lisa and company have given you an entire week. So happy birthday and happy week 17.
Well, thank you, Dan. It's great to be another year older. It's great to be putting 2020 behind us. I just hope that 2021 isn't like one of those memes you see on Facebook and social media where 2020's there doing a stupid stunt and 2021's there like, hold my beer, like 2021's going to top 2020 somehow. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But, hey, it's 74 degrees here. We're living life down here in Florida like there's no tomorrow. We're cocktails on the beach and on the pool side every day of the week. So, shovel out that snow, make your way to the airport, and come on down here. Enjoy a cocktail by the beach.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And listen, I am there. I am very, very much getting closer and closer to just jumping on that plane and heading down. You know, the quarantining. What do they say? They have the quarantinis now, but the quarantining after the fact. That's the pain in the butt part of it. So, that's the thing. If there was no quarantining after, if it's like, hey, I'm healthy, I took a test, I'm all good to go, then, that's where I'm at. Because for me, I would like the opportunity to come down to Florida. I miss it incredibly, and I do. I want to be down in Florida enjoying my time with you, with Papa Joe and Mary and Joey, with my nieces, Gracie and Carly, as well as Jason and Kristen and the entire crew, Evan and Rudy and everybody. So I would love to be down there. I will, God willing. Hopefully I'll be down there very, very soon. And I cannot wait. I'm going to be like a little kid going crazy when that opportunity happens. So very, very much look forward to it. What did you do for your birthday? How'd you spend it?
Oh, just with family. Watch football. And was on Sunday, so watch football and just have a nice dinner with family. It was good.
Awesome. Well, I'm happy you got to enjoy your birthday. I'm happy you got to have a good time. We're here in week 17. Mike, you and I believed. We kept the faith. We stayed strong. We did all that we could to get people ready for the season. We did this entire year, more so than we've ever did any year on the show, inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub here on Wake Up Call. In my opinion, we went more ham this year than ever. We gave people more this year than ever. We worked harder this year than ever, and we work hard every year. And there was the notion that there wasn't going to be a season. Bring me into now sitting here today in week 17 after you and I put all the work together, did everything we possibly could, and there was more than a few people out there thinking this was never going to happen.
Yeah, well, you look back and, with all the restrictions and all the guidelines and all the problems supposedly with the COVID, I won't get all political, but when you have an organization that has 1,600 players and you're diligent in what you're doing with masks and so forth, for the most part, I would say in the 90s as far as percentage, it looks like the league did a good job of managing things. And when they had to react, they did. They were flexible in their schedule. They played a football game on all 7 days of the week for the first time ever. They kept things open. So, take that as a testament to how serious the COVID situation is or isn't, or just look at it and think that the NFL was just really lucky either way, we were blessed to have a year, and I'm kind of happy. It looks like, every team is going to complete every game on their schedule, and, you're not going to have any asterisks by this year as far as for records or as far as for, it's not like a strike year or a shortened year or anything like that. It's good that they were able to complete a season, and, we get a bonus this year with the extra playoff team with 7 for AFC and NFC and only 1 bye. So, interesting twist all year long. If you're a fantasy player, dynasty player, it really kept you on your toes this year as far as COVID, who was in, who was out, what that means because a certain player's out. Does that give another player an opportunity? Is it truly a next man up scenario? What does that do to your opponent and the way they play you based on who you have or don't have? So it's been a challenging and exciting year on many levels, but again, let's just hope that 2021 is a little bit better, a little bit smoother, a little less anxiety, a little more, normalcy, if you would, in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Hoping that 2021 brings about goodness and positivity and cheer. If we want it, we got to be it. If you want to talk about it, you got to be about it. So if you want more positivity, be that way. You want community to be more connected, be that way. You want love, you got to love. You want what you want out of this world, you got to put into it. So, it's kind of like saying you want pasta with sauce, but then not making the sauce to put on the pasta. If you want it, make it. That's what you got to do. You can only control the controllables, and the only controllable each and every single one of us has is who we are, what we say, what we do, how we think. That's all we got. So make sure you go out there today, give it your all, give it your best, and form a bond with people and show what that positive bond looks like Mike and I do every Wednesday. Let's jump into the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Mike, as you know, Week 17 does not have Thursday football. It also does not have Monday Night Football. It's all played on a Sunday, and it starts at 1 o'clock, and it ends sometime after probably 11:30. With that being said, Miami's playing Buffalo. Buffalo's in the playoffs. Miami is still fighting for an opportunity. Your thoughts?
Well, this is the first game where it's kind of like a wrinkle game where, you got to adjust your fantasy thoughts, whether you're playing DFS or whether you're playing season long or a dynasty situation. And, hopefully your championship is already done and gone in Week 16 like most leagues, but some leagues are still playing. I'm in a few, and I'm in the championship in a few of these leagues, so it makes it challenging. But, as long as you keep a good head on your shoulders like you have all year, as long as you keep the same guidance and guidelines you've had all year, and as long as you stay true to that, you're going to be on top of your game. For Buffalo, they're going to try to stay on top of their game, even though they're already in and essentially have nothing to play for. They're going to start Matt Barkley at quarterback, so he's number 33 on my rankings this week. Devin Singletary, Zach Moss, 29 and 43 respectively. And Stephon Diggs, he's going to play a little bit. He's number 3 on my rankings. Everybody else seems to be dinged up or not performing. I'm going to count on Stephon Diggs for at least a half of football. But, a little story, a little side on Stephon Diggs. Monday night, in order to win a championship in 2 of my leagues, I needed him to go for about $150 and 3 touchdowns. I did not watch the game. I watched movies with my spouse, and sure enough, the next morning I woke up to another Christmas present. He had $145 and 3 touchdowns and carried me to 2 championships. So it was a relief. It was nice. I wasn't stressing or anxious during that whole situation. I just was like, yeah, if he does it, he does it. If not, I don't win. And sure enough, he did it. Now, I went and watched the replay of the game. Don't get me wrong. Once I knew the outcome, I was like, ooh, let's watch this. But, Miami on the other side, they still got a little something to play for. You like the combination of Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick to get the win last week. Tua number 23 on the rankings. Myles Gaskin, number 9. Salvin Ahmed, number 50. Devontae Parker, number 58. And Mike Gesicki is the guy you want for receptions. He's number 12 on my rankings. I think Miami's going to continue to roll with a depleted Buffalo team in front of them. Miami's going to do everything they can in their power to keep going. I got them winning this game.
Yeah, I think that, with Buffalo knowing that they're in, not wanting to deal with injury and whatnot, Miami's got a lot to play for. Now, do you want to let a team in from your division and potentially see them again? Probably not. But as it stands right now, when we take a look at, the playoffs and the picture and kind of where we're at right now in this playoff status, for things to go in the way that they would go in this moment and currently right now, I want to let everybody know that if the playoffs were to happen today, this is what it would look like. Buffalo would be number 2. Miami would be number 5. So, as you know, Kansas City gets a break. They'll have a game off. So Buffalo will play Cleveland. Pittsburgh would play Baltimore. Tennessee would play Miami. So it's not like Buffalo would have to play Miami 3 times necessarily right off the jump. So that's a good thing. So Buffalo, listen, I want you to protect your players. I want you to protect, your show pony and Josh Allen. You definitely got to protect that man. So I get that. And, you also want to win the game. Now, Ryan Fitzpatrick and Tua Tagovailoa, they've been able to find a way to both win. They've made this an interesting season. It's been fun. It's been exciting. I do think Miami's going to get their shot in the playoffs, and I'm excited to see it. So, with that being stated, if Tua is, in fact, the guy this week, honestly, if you have team quarterback for Miami, not a bad week. If you have team quarterback, because, Buffalo, I don't think is going to be sending everybody out there the entire game. So, if you have either one of these guys, there's value there. I think they're high-end 2s. And if you have the team quarterback, I think it makes it even more attractive. Myles Gaskin, not a bad play for you as a running back 3. Salvin Ahmed with Myles Gaskin being back, not too much going on for him. Mike Gesicki, he goes up, in my opinion. I think that, he is their best receiver on the team. So that's really where the value is for Miami. For Buffalo's side of things, with Matt Barkley going out there and Josh Allen not, that's going to affect some things. Singletary and Zach Moss, these are flex guys if they're able to go out there for a little bit. Stephon Diggs, if he goes out there for a little bit, is worth the play as well as a wide receiver, 1 or 2. I would say he's a 2 this week because of that. Cole Beasley is questionable, so just watch that. But ultimately, Miami's trying to make the playoffs. Buffalo's trying to stay healthy. So if you are playing in your championship game this week, just understand that, you have Josh Allen. You have Stephon Diggs. Just be smart about it and really pay attention to the trades and what's going on. And when I say the trades, I mean like the newspaper, just watch things, not actual trades. I don't want anybody in Buffalo jumping off, snow mountains thinking that their life is over. Just watch what's going on this week. See who's playing and not playing, who's being held out as a healthy scratch, because they are talented on your fantasy team, but this is also reality, and reality is in Week 17, playoff teams sit players. So just make sure you pay attention to that. That puts a little bit more value to Miami. Miami's playing for more, so I'm giving Miami the win. The next one that we have up, Mr. Sofka, is Baltimore at Cincinnati. Now, Baltimore is not out of the they're not out of the woods yet. Baltimore and Cleveland both 10-5, and they're both fighting to get into the playoffs, and they're both playing divisional games. What do you have for Baltimore at Cincinnati?
Yeah, Baltimore is, on a roll right now. It seems to be clicking. It seems to be really clicking for Lamar Jackson. He's ranked number 1 on the quarterback ranking this week. And, he's going to make a lot of connections with Mark Andrews, who's number 2 on my rankings this week. So, that's your play for Baltimore. J.K. Dobbins, sure, Gus Edwards, those guys are going to divvy up some of the carries. They're in the 30s, 30 and 35 respectively on the ranking. Marquis Brown is the wide receiver from Baltimore you want, 31 on the rankings. I try not to play guys that are ranked in the 30s if I can help it. I'm trying to get guys that are constantly in the top 10, number 2 at their position at worst. So looking at Cincinnati, it's probably going to be Brandon Allen again, number 29 on the rankings. Giovanni Bernard, number 24. T. Higgins, number 12. Tyler Boyd, number 14, if he's a go. I think he's going to be out for the game. And looking at the tight ends, I can't trust any of these guys. So I'm trying not to play guys from Cincinnati. I got 1 or 2 guys from Baltimore in a game that should be a snooze fest. With that in mind, Cincinnati will probably take them to the wire now that I've stated that. But, I think Baltimore wins this one easily.
Yeah, of all the teams in the NFL, as I had mentioned earlier in the show, there are 2 divisions that have, teams that are alive in the sense of anybody can make it. And, the AFC North and the NFC West, they're in those situations. The NFC West has Arizona and the Rams, who are ironically playing each other this week. The AFC North has Baltimore and Cleveland alive with Pittsburgh already in. In this game, I'm going to go with the Ravens as well. I think the Ravens will be able to handle business against a team that's 4-10-1 and is not playing with their quarterback and haven't played with their, rookie number one pick, Joe Burrow, for weeks here. Not to take anything away from Ryan Finley, who defeated the Steelers. Shout out to Ryan Finley, who I appreciate and respect, and I covered him at NC State. Never thought of him as a runner, and that made the win look even better against Pittsburgh. Lamar Jackson, speaking of runners, is worth the play. J.K. Dobbins is a running back 2. Gus Edwards is a flex for you. Marquise Hollywood Brown is worth the play for you as well. And Miles Boykin, a sneaky flex in that situation. And, of course, you got to play Mark Andrews. The biggest value on the team, I believe, is Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews for fantasy. On Cincinnati's side of it, there's not a lot to write home about. Tyler Boyd is injured. He has a concussion. So, God willing, he'll get through the protocol well and be able to come back. The value's in T. Higgins, and that's really it, in my opinion, for Cincinnati. I don't see them winning. I don't see a lot of fantasy value, so let's move on. Next one that we have up is staying in that division. Another team playing for their life. Cleveland going up against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was the last undefeated team in the NFL of 32 franchises. They went 11-0. Then they lost 3 games in a row after going 11-0. 3 games in a row. Buffalo sandwiched in the middle, but a loss to Cincinnati and a loss to Washington. Not good for Pittsburgh. However, they got a big-time win to help out Tennessee, who I'm sure they weren't trying to do on purpose, defeating the Colts this past week. Now they get Cleveland, who's got 10 wins and is looking for an opportunity to get into the playoffs, which they haven't done a lot since coming back in '99. What do you got?
Yeah, if you had told me a couple weeks ago that Cleveland was playing Pittsburgh, I'd have a totally different look on this game. But Pittsburgh's basically playing for nothing, so they're going to trot out Mason Rudolph, and that bodes well for Cleveland, who would like to win this game to, help solidify their playoff chances as well. I got Mason Rudolph, number 30 on the rankings. James Conner, 33. Juju Smith, 33. Deontay Johnson, king of the drops in the NFL, but he still gets the most targets. 15 on the rankings, Chase Claypool 42, and Eric Ebron 13. On the other side, these guys have more to play for, but I don't think Pittsburgh's just going to roll over. They're sitting some offensive guys, but they still have an okay defense there in Pittsburgh. I got Baker Mayfield, number 24, Nick Chubb, number 11 on the rankings, Kareem Hunt, number 28. So look for Cleveland to get their running game going, of course. Austin Hooper, 18, and Jarvis Landry, 29. I'm looking at this game, and I think that Cleveland has every right to win this game on paper, but it wouldn't surprise me to have them somehow, some way screw this up. But in the same breath, it's Mason Rudolph. It's not Ben Roethlisberger. Ben seems to do the thing that makes them win all the time, and that's connect well with the receivers and run that offense. I think that offense is running Mason Rudolph, meaning he's going to be behind a few steps. And don't forget, Cleveland has those defensive pass rushers. You have a Myles Garrett, you have an Olivier Vernon, you have a solid front line there on defense. So I think that's going to be the difference in the game. The defensive front line for Cleveland and the ability for them to run the ball, and Pittsburgh not having anything to play for. I got to go with Cleveland.
Yeah, I got to go with Cleveland in this game as well to get the victory. Mason Rudolph has proven last year Pittsburgh looked like a totally different team because they had a team without Ben Roethlisberger, who got hurt at the beginning of the season. I mean, he really is what helps. You could put that entire machine together, but that final peak, kind of the ignition switch, it's Ben Roethlisberger. That's what it has been for a long time. There's talent on the team, but that talent goes as Ben goes, and when he's not there, they don't go that far. So James Conner, worth the play for you, and Juju Smith-Schuster, wide receiver 2. Eric Ebron, because you got your backup quarterback, so they'll go to the run and go to their tight end, is what is typical. So I think Eric Ebron keeps his value as well, maybe gets a little bit more. On the other side for Cleveland, Baker Mayfield's playing for his life, which means he could put up 40 points for you in this game. I like him in this matchup. I like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt as well. And here's the crazy thing about Cleveland. Marvin Hall, raise your hand if you know him. Jamarcus Bradley, raise your hand if you know him. Derek Willis, raise your hand if you know him. Because Jarvis Landry, Rashad Higgins, Kadarrell Hodge, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Taywan Taylor, Odell Beckham Jr., and JoJo Natson are all injured on the team. All of them, folks. So we're hoping that Jarvis comes back, but outside of that, it's a bunch of players like when you got that when you got Madden back in the day when the Browns came back and you saw the players on the team and you had no idea who any of those people were. That's what it feels like right now in the wide receiver core. So I think that gives Austin, Hooper, and David Njoku a little bit of a boost. I like Njoku more than Hooper still because he hasn't really shown that he's gotten comfortable in Cleveland. But really the value is in Baker, Nick Chubb, and Kareem Hunt, and if Landry is able to go. I'm picking Cleveland, like I said, and I think Cleveland and Baltimore are going to make this one hell of a playoff push with everything going into the AFC, knowing that Pittsburgh's in, Baltimore wants in, and so does Cleveland. Here's two teams that aren't getting in, Minnesota and Detroit. What do you got for this?
Yeah, Minnesota getting whacked last week by the Saints. And not too many times you could say they get whacked after you put up 33 points. They lost 52-33 to the Saints in New Orleans. And Detroit got throttled at home by a Tampa Bay team that came out hot, came out really fast. I mean, they were ahead 34-0 at the half. So, Tampa was on easy street. Ben was sitting. But, you look at what the Vikings faced. Alvin Kamara ran against them for 6 touchdowns. So this is going to be an interesting yet non-interesting game. There's basically nothing on the line here as far as I can as far as I'm interested, there are some fantasy values in this game, though, and it's all on Minnesota's side. You look at Minnesota, got Kirk Cousins, number 8 on the rankings. Dalvin Cook, number 1. Adam Thielen, number 9. Justin Jefferson, who needs 111 yards to set a rookie record for receivers, and he was slow coming out of the gate. Remarkable job for a rookie this year without any rookie preseason to speak of. For an athlete of that caliber to be able to make that adjustment and be in the top 10 week after week for wide receivers on my rankings is strong. Irv Smith, Kyle Rudolph's going to be out. So Irv Smith, number 16 on the rankings. Going over to Detroit, you got some value fantasy-wise here as well. T.J. Hawkinson is the biggest beneficiary to Kenny Golladay being out and on the IR and then out. And then he's been a mess. Now he's doubtful again. I don't think he's going to make the field. That puts Danny Amendola and Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones is the biggest beneficiary. He goes to 14 on my rankings. Danny Amendola, number 51. DeAndre Swift, number 6 on the rankings. And Chase Daniel looks like he's going to get the start with Matthew Stafford dinged up with the ankle. Chase Daniel, believe it or not, number 18 on my rankings because Minnesota gives up the points to quarterbacks. I'm looking at this game, and the only thing I can think of is Minnesota wins this game, but does it really matter?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, to the fan base, yes. To building toward a more positive future, yes. You always want to end on a high note, but the reality of it all is there hasn't been a lot of high, especially for Detroit, who's going to be looking for a new head coach, a new staff, and so on and so forth as they step forward in this, just like Atlanta, just like probably Jacksonville, who's at least looking for a new general manager. So Minnesota on their side, Kirk Cousins, Delvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson. That's all a yes from me as well. I stamp what Mike said. On the other side of it, DeAndre Swift, Marvin Jones Jr., and T.J. Hawkinson. It's as simple as that. There is fantasy value, but like you said, Mr. Sofka, what are they getting out of this game? Well, building toward the future. They're getting out of this game hopes. Delvin Cook's got more numbers to get on a season that's been awesome for fantasy. And not only that, Justin Jefferson, like you said, has 111 yards to get. There's something to be stated. DeAndre Swift obviously can make his mark and whatnot, but ultimately, both of these teams struggling in the NFC North. Detroit just hasn't looked good in years upon years. I mean, really, honestly, they haven't put a lot of great stuff together since losing Megatron. And that is a very, very tough statement if you're a Detroit Lions fan. The reality of the fact that it's been a very long time. And yeah, you got Matt Stafford, and yeah, you've had some other guys that have been able to do this, that, and the other. But ultimately, this team has been at the bottom of the barrel in the NFC, the bottom of the barrel in the NFL in general. And if not for teams like the Jets and the Jaguars, they'd be even lower. So I guess they could be thankful for that as they step into the new year. But Detroit's going to have to make some better decisions, and those decisions are going to have to come from the top. Next up, the Jets and the Patriots. For the first time in a long time, Mike, I can tell you, neither one of these teams is playing for any hope of the playoffs either. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the Patriots got pounded at home on Monday night by Buffalo. And again, I spoke about Stephon Diggs having that great game there, 145 and 3 touchdowns. And then, you know, you look on the other side of the ball, the Jets. The Jets were the team that surprised everybody. They went out and just manhandled Cleveland and ground out a 23-16 win. You know, their playoffs chances took a big hit with that loss. They need a lot to happen for them to get in. Right now, they're looking at number 7 out of 7 teams being able to get in. But, you know, that's not a given. You know, the Jets are a team that, you know, they were in dysfunction. You were wondering why they started winning games. Well, they're winning games because they're the Jets, and they were in line to get the number 1 pick. Now that goes to Jacksonville. But I don't think either one of these teams is solid by the quarterback play on either team. Sam Darnold, number 32 this week on my rankings. You look on the other side of the ball at New England, and, you know, Cam Newton hasn't really lit it up. You know, Bill Belichick's coming out and saying Cam's doing what we ask him to do. It's not all Cam's fault. Well, it is Cam's fault because Cam, even though he likes him some Cam, he's not putting up numbers either. When you're putting up like 23 yards passing and a half, there's a problem there. Number 28 on the rankings this week is Cam. I can't start any of the running backs for New England. They're in the 30s and 40s. Jacoby Myers in the 40s as far as receivers. So I can't really start anybody from New England. You go back to the other side of the ball here with the Jets. Like I said before, Sam Darnold, 32. Ty Johnson and LaMichael Perrine are in the 30s and 40s. LaMichael Perrine, the higher of the two, at 37. Jameson Crowder, the lone bright spot, at 13 on my rankings. And Chris Herndon, I can't start him number 39. So the only guy I can really play is Jameson Crowder out of all those guys. And, you know, I don't know, the winner of this game, I'm going to take a dart, blindfold myself, and throw it at the board and say that the Patriots come up the winner in this one.
Yeah, this game is, I mean, for the first time in a long time, like we were talking about, the Patriots are not going to the playoffs. They're out. They're done. It's over. They got no shot. And here we are in this game against the Jets, who decided to start winning at the end of the season, and after starting 0-13, have won 2 games in a row to become 2-13, and that being my grandfather's number and mine together, 21-13, 2-13. So the Jets in this matchup, Jameson Crowder's got the value, and no, your feed did not drop out. That's all I have. On the Patriots side, Cam Newton, and also we didn't drop out again. Have a great day. Jameson Crowder, Cam Newton, that's all I got to say about this game. The Patriots are going back to being that team that wasn't that good when they had that logo of that guy that was bent over hiking the football. So I'm not a big fan of what's going on here in this game. I have no desire in watching it whatsoever. And I do wish all the fan bases the best. I give a shout out to my buddy Ross and hope that everything works out well. My thought is Jets, get another one. You know, kick them while they're down. But I think, I don't want to say kick them while they're down because I've never been a fan of that. Let me say it to you like this. Jets have an opportunity to take this game, but I think it's going to go to the Patriots. So I'll give a slight edge to the New England Patriots, but to 31 other franchises and fans around the world that don't wear Patriots gear. And let me rephrase. To the Patriot real fans, this stinks this year, and I get it. To the fake fans, you can pretend that you never liked the Patriots. But to everybody else, this is like Christmas over and over and over again. The season continues as fans finally see Bill Belichick have to sit and watch for 1 year out of the last 1,052. The Jets have a shot, but I think the Patriots get the win. I wish the best to both teams. I hope the Jets get better because they've been atrocious for a long time. And I hope the Patriots can lose gracefully because Bill Belichick is always looking like he's trying to go number 2 in the toilet and it ain't working. I've seen his angry, constipated face when he's happy. I wonder if it looks the same when he's mad. Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants. Believe it or not, Mr. Sofka, there's 3 teams in the NFC East that are not eliminated from the playoffs. Dallas, New York, as well as Washington. But none of them can get in unless they win the division. 3 teams still in the playoff hunt. 3 teams still in the hunt to win the division. But no one of those teams that loses can make the playoffs. This isn't like the AFC North where you got 10 win, 10 win, 12 win. This is where you got 6, 5, and 5, or 6, 6, and 5. So whoever wins this gets a home playoff game. It's a very strange situation, but there are 3 teams alive. There's only 1 team that'll be left standing because unlike everybody else that plays football that has a winning record, somehow the NFC East says C+ is good enough. Dallas at New York. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm looking at this game and I'm like, oh, Dallas is going to win this one. Look what they just did, to the Eagles, in Dallas. But then I take a look at what they've been doing all year, and they're very inconsistent. They're hot and cold. I mean, is Andy Dalton going to throw for 377 and 3 touchdowns again? Is Zeke finally going to have another 100-yard game, making it 2 in a row? Is Michael Gallup going to put up a $121 and 2 touchdowns? Is Dallas capable of putting up 37 on somebody on the road? And I question all that. But I dove into the rankings here. I got Andy Dalton at number 19 on the rankings. Zeke Elliott, number 17. Tony Pollard, 32. And I got all the wide receivers in the 20s and 30s, led by Michael Gallup, 23. Amari Cooper, 26. And CeeDee Lamb, 36. And Dalton Schultz, 15. So there's all your second, third-tier guys. They're on Dallas. Then I look on the other side of the ball, and there's one guy I know I'm going to start, and that's Evan Ingram, number 5 on the tight end rankings. Daniel Jones, number 22. Wayne Gallman, 23. Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, 34 and 53, respectively. Most of the value is on Dallas's side for fantasy play, but you can play any one of these guys with expectations of a 2 or a 3 number by their position, and that's what you're going to get. On paper, you're like, oh, Dallas is going to win this game. But the way things have been going, I'm going to take the Giants in an upset here. It's in Jersey. There's probably going to be bad weather. It's probably going to be very cold, snowy. I don't know. I haven't looked at the weather. I don't have a forecast in front of me. But with all of that being said, and Dallas needing to win and then needing Philadelphia to win, I think Dallas, who holds somewhat of their own destiny, I think Dallas is going to fumble the ball literally and figuratively in Jersey. I think the Giants are going to win in an upset.
Well, we all know in years past when the records were a little bit better, when all Dallas needed to do was win, they couldn't seem to do it. That's all they needed. Win and you're in. Win a game. There were seasons where they said all you got to do is win one of your last 3 games and you're playing a stinky Washington 2 out of the last 3 weeks. And they couldn't do it. So, Dallas fans know very, very well when you say win and you're in, it still somehow affects them. So, here we are in fantasy. Here we are in Week 17. And even though all the teams have a below 500 record in the NFC East, it's still a win and you got a shot, Dallas. So, with that being said, I like Zeke Elliott in the matchup. Tony Pollard, who's gotten some looks here, he didn't do much on Sunday. He is a deep flex for you at this point. Amari Cooper worth the play. Michael Gallup worth the play. CeeDee Lamb worth a flex. Probably a wide receiver. Low end 3, high end 4. And on the other side of it, with Andy Dalton playing for his life, if you got another quarterback that's sitting out, you have Josh Allen and Andy Dalton, well, then you got to play Andy. It's not a bad week to play him. I don't see him as high. I see him as a quarterback, too, in the sense of other guys you may have, like Green Bay is still playing for a bye. New Orleans is still playing for a bye. Seattle's playing for a bye. So you got some big-name guys there. But if you don't have that, then Andy Dalton's not a bad option in this game. Daniel Jones, I don't really trust in this matchup. Alfred Morris, who has been all over the NFC East. He's been with Washington. He's been with Dallas. Now he is with the Giants. He's still out there, got 13 yards most recently. Wayne Gallman, who is a Clemson Tiger, who I thought would have a better NFL career, has become a starter for the second time in his history, second season, I should say, with the Giants. So we'll see what he can do. But, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, I don't trust in any of these players. Evan Ingram, if he's able to go, I'd put him out there. He's questionable with an ankle injury. Caden Smith is behind him if not. So to me, it's Evan Ingram or bust. Low end Wayne Gallman running back 3 type of situation. I think more of the fantasy values on Dallas' side. And I know that I said typically the Dallas Cowboys don't close a season with giving themselves a fighting chance. They typically fumble the ball at the end. Mike thinks they will again this time, as they have so many times. I'm going to say the opposite. I think Dallas holds on. I think they get a victory, and then they just hope that Philadelphia helps them out a little bit on the back end in the final game of the regular season. Atlanta at the Bucs, Mr. Sofka, before we take our step aside. What do you got?
Yeah, well, the Bucs coming off beating somebody down in Atlanta. Well, they were a field goal away at taking down KC. KC clinching the number 1 seed when Koo missed that late field goal. But, you look at this Atlanta team, they're capable. They got some players on the team. One of their big players, Julio Jones, is probably out again. But that's okay because Calvin Ridley has stepped up all year, number 2 on the rankings, followed by Russell Gage, number 25. And then Hayden Hurst, who's, in my mind, been a disappointment all year. I think he should have been a top 10 guy. Instead, he's been a top 20 guy most of the year, number 19 on the rankings. And Matt Ryan, 32. I can't start any of the running backs because coach is saying that they're going to, make Lido Smith the focal point because Todd Gurley and Brian Hill have been struggles. Those guys are in the 50s. Well, Lido Smith is 42 based on what he's done as the so-called starter or the guy that's going to get the most touches. Tampa still has something to play for here. They're in, but they've clinched a playoff spot, but they want to get a better better record here and get the higher seed. They can't get the home field, but they need some help with the Saints and the Seahawks maybe get knocked down to have them go up a notch or two. But I like Tom Brady in this game, number 6 with that in mind. Mike Evans, number 11. Rob Gronkowski, number 9 on the rankings. The running backs, looks like Ronald Jones is going to be back. That means Leonard Fournette's going to take somewhat of a backseat. I got Ronald Jones at 21 and Fournette at 34. Evans at 11. Godwin at 32 and Antonio Brown 38. So I'm confident those guys can score and get the touches in Godwin and Brown, but I think most of the targets are going to be Mike Evans again. And looking at this game, Atlanta's capable of beating the Bucs. I want to be clear. I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to take Tampa Bay in this one.
Yeah, Atlanta, another team that's looking for their head coach. They're also looking for a general manager. They did the firing very early in the season, and they have kind of just tried to figure it out from then. And not only did they do that, this is not the first time that they fired a coach during the season and had to figure things out as they went. So my best to Atlanta in their search, and I hope that it all works out and that brighter days are always ahead of them on the horizon. Atlanta at Tampa Bay in this NFC South divisional game. For me, Matt Ryan is worth the play in this matchup, knowing that they're going to have to throw the ball. Calvin Ridley is worth it as well. Julio Jones, watch that. Now, Hayden Hurst scored in 2 straight games, so temper your expectations, but not a bad tight end, too, for you. Lido Smith, Todd Gurley, what did I say, Mike? They gave him a year. It was a test. It's either going to pass the test or it's not going to work out. Well, it hasn't worked out. We could see Todd Gurley go from the number 1 fantasy running back in the nation, the number 1 paid at one point running back in the nation, also the number 1 running back in reality, just what people would think, to a guy that could be third string on a team and just fall right off. So Lido Smith, a sneaky flex for you, but Todd Gurley hasn't done anything for me this season. I don't expect anything in this game as he's been relegated to second string. Calvin Ridley and Matt Ryan with a Hayden Hurst look as well. Tom Brady in the matchup, again, when we take a look at everything going on in the NFL, Tampa has a playoff berth, but they haven't locked anything up yet as far as exactly where they're going to be. So this is important. If you think that this game doesn't matter to Tampa, that's not true. Tom Brady wants to win, and Tom Brady wants to make his presence known. Tampa is trying to figure out where they're going to be. Right now, they're 5th. That would have them playing against Washington if everything stays the same. That's where they would be sitting in this, and that's a good matchup for Tom Brady and the Bucs. I like Brady in this game. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin as well. Antonio Brown, because Atlanta's defense is so bad, is a sneaky flex as well. Ronald Jones has been taken off the COVID-19 list. If he's able to play, put him out there. And Rob Gronkowski is also worth the play, but I think he's a tight end too in this matchup. I got Tampa Bay winning it. And with that being said, Mr. Sofka and I will take a step aside for a fast break inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Not one of, but the one that you need to be watching and listening to every single week. The Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. And for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery, you can call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat. We'll take a step aside here. In the meantime, make sure you go to HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com while you listen to our fast break and join our fantasy football group at Winning Fantasy Football. This is Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, and we, as always, appreciate you being here.
Carvel Duet, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel Duet. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on WakeUpCallDT.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on MixLR.com/WakeUpCallDT, as well as on Facebook Live on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. We are inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios with locations on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, as well as 4 locations in Syracuse, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, and 401 South Salina Street. And hanging out here inside the Cafe Kubal Studios with our Christmas tree. A happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and all the good stuff, and a happy early New Year to each and every single one of you. Mr. Sofka and I are deep inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour. We believe there would be a season, and we are now here with you at the end of the regular season. as about to embark on the new playoff system, which I love, with 7 teams on each side instead of 6. Only 1 first-round bye, and it goes to the number 1 overall seed. So very excited about this. It could be on one side the Packers, the Saints, or the Seahawks getting the bye. On the other side, we know it's the Chiefs. Mr. Sofka and I are hanging out. Fantasy Football Week 17, Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub. Go there and watch the games on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. You can also go pick up your food or have it brought to you. Curbside pickup, takeout, delivery, and catering by calling 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat. With that being said, Mike joins us from Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. We both join you from our winning Fantasy Football League on Facebook, and we implore you to join us there for free by typing in Winning Fantasy Football on your Facebook search bar. Mike, next game that we have on the docket here coming up is for Week 17, Green Bay at Chicago. Chicago, believe it or not, is fighting for their playoff lives. Green Bay is fighting to be the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. What do you got?
Yeah, I like this game a lot. This is a game I'm looking forward to watching. Green Bay's in, but they have the opportunity to have the number 1 seed and the bye. And like you had mentioned, Chicago fighting for their playoff lives. Right now, they'd be the number 7 team in, but, that's not done yet. So this is exciting, and there's a lot of fantasy value on both sides of the ball here. I'm probably playing a lot of guys in this game, starting with Aaron Rodgers, number 4 on my rankings, Aaron Jones, 15, and Devontae Adams, number 1 on the wide receiver rankings, which he's been most of the year. And Robert Tonyan, he's the red zone guy. He's the goal line vulture, number 11 on the rankings. I like him a lot in a touchdown-only situation. On the other side of the ball, Mitch Trubisky, number 15. David Montgomery, who's been out of this world the past several weeks, number 7 on the running back rankings. Allen Robinson, number 4. And Cole Kmet, 17. No, I haven't forgot Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham's been doing a stellar job in the last couple weeks. He's had a couple touchdowns, but the challenge is Cole Kmet's getting more snaps, the younger guy, but that's a great combination they have there at tight end, the rookie, and then Jimmy Graham, a consummate professional. They're able to assist that rookie, yet go out there and put up some numbers on his own. I like this game a lot. This game's in Chicago. This is going to be a close game, I think, closer than people think. I'm going to give the edge to Green Bay here.
Yeah, this is a very, 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 very important game for these teams that are playing in this situation. And as I read to you the playoff scenarios earlier on in today's broadcast, a wake-up call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, we spoke about this and the fact that Chicago still has life, but they're going to have to take care of business. They unfortunately are not playing the Lions. They're playing the Packers. And, and I was thinking about this, and I'm like, the Vikings, but that still would have been more of a challenge. If they were playing the Lions, then you're sitting here going, okay, all right, playoffs, makes sense. But Chicago getting Green Bay is not what you want in your final game of the regular season. Chicago gets in with a win, or Arizona loses, or Chicago ties and Arizona ties. So Chicago, if they win, they are in. This is as simple as it is. Green Bay's already in. They have to win the game or tie to get the first round bye, or Seattle loses or ties. So Green Bay is in the driver's seat. If they win, they got the first round bye, number 1 seed in the NFC. If Chicago wins, they don't have to wait on anybody else. If they win, they're in. So Green Bay and Chicago both in the driver's seat, both in control of their destiny in this game, making it so very important. And if you're playing your championship game this week, it makes everything more important to you as well. There's a lot of value on both sides here. So Allen Lazard's coming off of his lowest total of the season. Tavon Austin is on the team now. So some interesting things here as we're seeing Tavon Austin join the group, which puts us in a situation of seeing the fact that, this could be a place for some growth, some improvement. Grabbing another weapon to get ready for the playoffs is something interesting here for the Green Bay Packers. But ultimately, I'm going to have to go with your value obviously being with Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, Robert Tonyan, and Aaron Jones with Allen Lazard and Tavon Austin as flex emergency guys for you at this point. On the other side of it with Chicago, they've tried Nick Foles, they've tried Mitch Trubisky. Somehow using both of them has gotten them where they are. Cole Kmet is worth the play, so is David Montgomery. Outside of that, it's hard to pick a receiver as they spread the ball around in these situations. So it's really Cole Kmet and David Montgomery. I'd like to tell Chicago fans, hey, both of these teams are going to get in. So Chicago, you're going to have an opportunity to play in the playoffs. Because if you win, you're in Green Bay, yeah, you won't get the number 1 seed necessarily without some help if you lose, but you'll also be in. But I think the Packers are going to take care of business. They're going to bump out Chicago. It's sad to see for Chicago, who came on late, but ultimately, at the end of it all, I think Green Bay is a better team, and I think that they have more value in fantasy and reality, which is why I have to pick them in this matchup. Next one up, Mike, Raiders at the Broncos. What do you got?
Yeah, both teams narrowly were defeated last week. The Broncos falling to the Chargers by 3. And then the Dolphins, Dolphins somehow beat the Raiders. I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing to see, Ryan Fitzpatrick come in with a 41-yarder to Matt Collins, albeit dragged down by his face mask. But I look at Derek Carr put up over 300 yards and a touchdown. Nelson Aguilar, 155 and a touchdown. So I just don't understand. I didn't understand Josh Jacobs sliding down at the 1 and not scoring, because that's the smarter football. Score the ball, score it. Because I'd rather have the points and have them go 80 yards than you trying to give up the ball at the 1-yard line and no score to let them go 99 yards, which is exactly what they did with Tua starting the game and Fitzpatrick getting called in as the closer like a baseball game. The Raiders have been a disappointment in the late half of the season. They're one of the few teams that can stub their toe like this and still not make a coaching or GM change. They pretty much got Gruden locked in 10 years, $100 million, $10 million a year. I think that's a smart move, long play, but you look at that move now and you're like, really, does that really make sense? I mean, any other coach would be fired at the results of what they have and what they were able to put up. They have the ingredients, they just didn't bake the cake right. But looking at Vegas, I think there's still some opportunity for some sort of fantasy life here. And what I mean is Darren Waller. He's been solid all year. He's been one of the top 3 tight ends all year long. So, I'm looking at the Raiders and I'm thinking, well, there's Darren Waller, number 1. There's Derek Carr, number 13 on the rankings. There's Josh Jacobs, number 12 on the rankings. Nelson Aguilar, 35, so I don't really have a lot on the receiver end of the guys that I can count on. But then I go to the other side of the ball and I'm like, geez, it could be worse. Derek Locke, 17. Melvin Gordon, number 16. Noah Fant, number 7 on the tight end rankings. And again, both teams have something in common. I really can't count on any of these receivers. Jerry Jeudy, Fitzpatrick, these guys are flex guys at best for you. Looking at this game and looking at the way that the Raiders have been losing games, I wouldn't doubt if they lose this game as well. And that's who I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick the Broncos to win this game at home. Everything tells me to take the Raiders, but I'm looking at the Raiders and the slide they've been in. I'm going to take the Broncos at home.
Yeah, this game is against 2 teams that aren't going anywhere, playoff-wise this season. And yet, the Raiders, I thought they would be the second worst team in the NFL. I thought the Jets would be the worst, and the Raiders would be, right behind them at 31. But the Raiders did some good things this year. And they definitely showed me that, they had more to give than I thought was going to come out of this season. However, at 7-8, I mean, listen, they're not going to have, if they win, they're 8-8. That's not a bad record at all. And in the Broncos, if they win, they're 6-10. So not great, but both teams are improving. And the Raiders bit themselves in the foot during the season, or else they'd be one of the teams trying to make it into the playoffs right now. I think Josh Jacobs is obviously your go, and Darren Waller on that side. Henry Ruggs has been up and down and around the corner. He only had 1 touch last week in his return. Him and Hunter Renfrow are wide receiver 4s, flex guys for you on the other side. I would say maybe a 3 or a 4. A 3 for Ruggs, a 4 for Renfrow, but still flex guys. Denver Broncos side of it, Royce Freeman's been used, Phillip Lindsay, and as well as Melvin Gordon. Melvin Gordon the third, not bad play for it, not a bad play, a lower end running back too. And then Jerry Jeudy, I do like him. I do like what he could do here, but he has been somewhat underwhelming at time. Tim Patrick has stepped up, not a household name, but could start to become one if they can get things clicking in Denver. I think Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant are your best bet with Melvin Gordon. Ultimately, Mike, I agree with you. I think the Raiders have something to give. Like I said, they can end the season at 500. If they win, they'll be 8-8, which isn't bad and something that John Gruden can build upon and talk about in a positive way. But ultimately, I'm going to pick Denver as well. That's where my gut is. That's where I'm going, and that's where the game is being played. Next one that we have up, the Colts and the Jaguars. The Jaguars will finish off their season before getting the number one pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. Before they finish it up, they will play the Colts, their longtime rival in the AFC South. I do want to make a note before we go anywhere that the best player on the team, offense, defense, and special teams, the best anything to get excited about this year, in my opinion, has been James Robinson, their running back, undrafted rookie out of Illinois State. Shout out to Illinois State for linking up with me on social media when I put out some love for Mr. Robinson. I am very, very sad to say that James Robinson will not be able to finish the season with the undrafted rookie rushing record. And the funny thing and the irony about this is, I've covered the Jaguars forever. They've been connected to me. I've been connected to them since 95 when they came in. He's not going to be able to beat the record that he's 34 yards behind, but that record is held by a friend of mine, who ironically is a former Colt, and they're playing the Colts, Dominique Rhodes. So he could have broken the record against the Colts of a former Colt undrafted rookie. James Robinson got over 1,000 yards rushing this season as a rookie, undrafted. Leonard Fournette leaves the team. It's not working out. James Robinson has proven that you don't have to be a high draft pick. Leonard Fournette was, I think, 4th. You don't have to be a high draft pick. Don't have to get paid millions of dollars. And you can be a no-name guy coming into the league and still do what he did. Leonard Fournette made it sound like, if you don't have me, what do you got? I want a quarterback. I want this. I want that. Leonard Fournette came with the baggage that he came with. James Robinson just came with the baggage that had his clothes in it because he was ready to go to work. Robinson, 1,070 yards this season is fantastic. Undrafted rookie. If he got 35 more yards, he would pass Dominique Rhodes. Very, very excited about this. Stay very close to it. Maybe there's some chance somehow, some way, some blessing going into 2021 that he'll be able to play. And if he is, I can't wait for him to break it. And if he does, I can't wait to talk to Dominique Rhodes about it, and I hope he'll be okay with it. But I am such a fan of James Robinson, and picking him up during the season, that man in 2 of my leagues saved my behind, and I thank you so very much for being a part of my team. I really do appreciate it. He's only the 3rd rookie to rush for 1,000 yards in Jaguars history, behind Fred Taylor's 1,223 in 98 and Leonard Fournette's 1,040 in 2017. So he rushed for more yards as a rookie than Leonard Fournette. And that's an undrafted rookie versus a top 4 pick. Something to think about. James Robinson, I hope you get to play. If you don't, I send you my love no matter what. Over 1,000 yards. Shout out to you, brother. And I hope that with Trevor Lawrence in the gang, you only get better. Next up is this game, so let's talk about it. I just needed to preface and show my love for Mr. Robinson. So cheers to you, Mr., not Mrs. Robinson. Well, actually, cheers to Mrs. Robinson, because she obviously made the boy that is out there becoming the man on the field and doing a fantastic job. Jags at Colts, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, well, flashing back to what you were saying about the running back situation, you can always flash back. Jacksonville went and pushed all their chips in the middle of the table several years ago with Blake Bortles. They skipped on an opportunity to draft Deshaun Watson. They ended up with Leonard Fournette. Now you see where they're at. Both those guys aren't even on the roster, so some poor draft decisions. Not a team that builds well through the draft. But you look at Jacksonville, and yeah, you got some bright spots. You got James Robinson there. Whoever is the GM coach or GM slash coach is going to come into a very talented team. They've locked down the number 1 pick. For all intents and purposes, I don't see how they screw this up, but it is Jacksonville. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence, so makes it a highly palatable job for a potential coach or GM or coach slash GM. You know, Jacksonville, their only victory this year came in the opener against Indianapolis. That game was in Jacksonville. This one in Indianapolis. Indianapolis in the 8th seed right now, on the bubble, on the outside looking in. I got every reason to believe Indianapolis is going to lock down this game, but let's get into the numbers. Philip Rivers, number 11 on the rankings. Jonathan Taylor, number 4. Nyheim Hines is the PPR guy, number 26 on the rankings. T.Y. Hilton, number 16. I'm not starting any of these other guys who have been injured and spotty, and Zach Pascal or Michael Pittman. Trey Burton, spotty as well. He had a nice little streak. He's number 31 on the rankings. On the other side of the ball, look for Mike Glennon to get the ball, number 31 on the rankings. Dare Ogunbo, Ogonna run the ball a lot again, number 18 on the rankings. DJ Shark, Laviska Shenault, these guys are grossly inefficient because of the quarterback situation primarily. Talented athletes, but DJ Shark, number 37, Laviska Shenault, number 43, and Tyler Eifert, number 34. They're all a victim of each other, and it all starts at the quarterback, and now it looks like James Robinson not going to make the field because of that high ankle sprain yet again. You know, I look at the Jaguars, and they have some pieces. They have potential. They're just a year or two away. I think that Indianapolis is going to win this one solidly.
Yeah, I mean, this is all over the place. The thing that I think that really stinks is they're not going to let Gardner Minshew play what could be his last game as a starter for Jacksonville. So I really don't like that decision. I think it's disrespectful. I think they used him when they wanted to, and I think they left him on the side when they didn't want him. You know, he's like a bone that's got a little bit of meat on it. They chew on it, they put it on the table, they pick it up again off the plate, they chew on it some more, they put it back on the table. I don't think that's respectful. I think Gardner Minshew should be the starter. That's no offense to Mike Glennon at all. Ultimately, if Glennon's out there, then Colin Johnson again would have gotten the boost, but he's out with a hamstring injury. DJ Chark, if he's able to play, it has value, and so does Laviska Shenault, who was picked in this year's draft by the Jaguars. That's the value. That's it. That's what they got. You know, shout out to the majority of the offensive linemen staying healthy. Tyler Shatley did get moved to center, though, and I hope that Brandon Linder's doing well. And Shatley, I believe I spoke with last season, I should say, and I'm happy to see him out there. For the Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines, both worth the play. Michael Pittman Jr. has been doing pretty well, but he's questionable with a concussion. T.Y. Hilton gets some value here, but not a ton. Jack Doyle, a little bit of value as well. I think the value's in Taylor, then Hines, and a little bit of Doyle mixed in. I don't believe in Phillip Rivers, but I think that they'll do what they need to do. Now, keep in mind, they can't just win and they're in. Indy has to this is how it goes with Indy. They can clinch a playoff berth if they win and Baltimore loses or ties. They can get in if they win and Cleveland loses or ties. They get in if they win and Miami loses or ties, so they need help from everybody to get in. Then if they tie, Baltimore loses, they tie, Cleveland loses, they tie, Miami loses, they also get in. They win the division, so they're still in the divisional race. They have to win no matter what or tie for any hope of anything. Then they win the division of the AFC South if they win and Tennessee loses or they tie and Tennessee loses. So they need help from somebody else just to get in. But here's the crazy thing. As much as they need help to get into the playoffs, and it's not just on them, they can not only get into the playoffs, they could win the division. So a team that has to win and needs help would not just get into the playoffs, they would actually get in and potentially win the division. You don't see that every day where they need the help, and it could mean so much more than just getting into the playoffs. I got the Colts winning the matchup. And to my Jaguars and to James Robinson, so close to the record. Dominique Rhodes, you're my guy. James Robinson, you're my guy as well. And I'm hoping the best for everybody, and I'm hoping for a late Christmas miracle that he gets to play and gets at least 35 yards. He could get it on one carry. The Chargers at the Chiefs, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, it's probably the first week and the only week I'm going to tell you not to play any of the Chiefs. The Chiefs escaping Atlanta with that missed field goal by Young Waku at the end, and then the Chargers narrowly escaping. That game where Denver came in, looked like they were going to come back and win the game. They ended up edging them 19-16. You look at both these teams, they're franchises that are taking different paths. The Chargers are a little bit behind, but you got to like the effort that they got from Justin Herbert, finding out 10 minutes before game one that he was the starter, and he's looked like a solid guy, not like a rookie who didn't have any rookie preseason. He's number 12 on the rankings this week. Austin Eckler, number 8. I can't really start any of the wide receivers. Keenan Allen's probably out. Mike Williams, number 48 on the rankings. Hunter Henry's probably not going to clear the COVID protocol. Look at a Donald Parham or a Stephen Anderson. Number 36 is where I have both of those guys ranked tied there, so I can't really start any of those guys. On the other side of the ball, who would you normally start? Travis Kelce. He's not playing. Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, these guys aren't going to play. So I have McCole Hardman, number 20 on the rankings, wide receiver for Kansas City. Demarcus Robinson, 52. CEH probably not going to play. Le'Veon Bell, 41. Darrell Williams is going to get the bulk of the work, number 25 on the rankings. And Chad Henne is going to get the start at quarterback, number 20 on the rankings. KC is in. They've locked down number 1. The Chargers are just playing to see what they can do, how they can end the season on a positive note, and continue the outstanding play by Justin Herbert. So I think that there's an opportunity for the Chargers to sneak one out here. They're going to play. Yeah, the game's in Kansas City, but you look at the players on both sides of the ball. Kansas City doesn't really care about this game, and LA Chargers have every reason to win outside of trying to get into the playoffs. I think the Chargers are going to sneak one away in Kansas City and win the game.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting. We're just coming in here as well, Mike, that Delvin Cook allegedly has a family emergency and will be ruled out due to COVID protocol. One of our listeners and viewers wrote it in. I'm actually on here on social media checking some things as well. So as of right now, it looks like Delvin Cook will not be playing in the Minnesota game. So we talked about it. This is live radio and live video, so it happens like this. We tell you what we think is going to be the best for you in fantasy, and then things can change in an instant. So with that being said, it looks like Delvin Cook will be out. So if that's the case, then obviously we scratch him off of our list from what we had said before the news came through, but make sure you stay close to that news. With that being stated, with Kansas City, like you said, Kansas City's the number 1 team in the country. That's what I thought they would be. That's what they are. They're 14-1. They've lost one game. They lost to the Raiders. They lost to the Raiders in the game where everybody was like, how do you lose to the Raiders in Kansas City? You know what I mean? It was that game. And I remember sitting in the Wildcat watching it, 40-32. They ran out of time there. But 14-1, they have defeated the Texans, the Chargers, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Bills, the Broncos, the Jets, the Panthers, the Raiders, the Bucks, and obviously the Raiders, the Broncos, and on and on. They've also defeated the Saints. They defeated the Dolphins. So a lot of great stuff coming from the Falcons as well, coming from Kansas City. 14-1. They're the only team that's going to make it out of the AFC West and make the playoffs. So it's pretty crazy to see that not only are they the best team in football, they're the only team that'll make it out of their division. And with that being said, at 14-1, you want to keep guys healthy. So the plays for you on the Chargers side, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler, both worth the play. Keenan Allen is hurt. He's questionable with a hamstring injury. You got to watch stuff like that, especially with receivers and running backs. Donald Parham, he gets the start. Loving this. Hunter Henry, not loving that he's hurt. But I told you about Donald Parham from the XFL in the beginning of the season, and I'm telling you about him again. I like Donald Parham in the game as a sneaky play, as well as Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert. Mike Williams with a little bit of value as well. On Kansas City side of it, Chad Henne doing his thing. We might, get to see Chad Henne out there. That'd be pretty cool. So, Chad Henne, a guy that I interviewed when he was with Jacksonville and was teaching Blake Bortles. Really nice guy, down to earth. Le'Veon Bell gets some value in this game. And, really, that's it. I mean, if a lot of these guys are going to be sitting and taking breathers here as we get set for the season, Then, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's doubtful. He has an ankle injury. You want to stay away from some of this stuff. So ultimately, Demarcus Robinson and McCole Hardman get some flex play with Chad Henne. But outside of that, and Le'Veon Bell, the values on the Chargers side, I'm going to pick the Chargers. It's sad to see that the Chargers couldn't have found their way to the playoffs this year because Justin Herbert did some good things, but hopefully that builds toward a positive future of, like Mike said with the Jaguars, with the Chargers being just a couple years off. So I'll pick the Chargers in this one. Won't be surprised if Kansas City goes 15-1, but they don't care about keeping that one loss. What they care about is making sure that once they hit the playoffs, they don't lose another game this season because you start the playoffs 0-0. Next one up, Mike. This is for all the marbles. Arizona is playing the Rams in Los Angeles. Here is the backdrop of this game that has incredible importance to both teams. Arizona, I told you, would be dangerous. I said Seattle, it was going to be there and do it. They have a chance of being the number one seed in the entire NFC. I said that no matter what happens in the NFC West, to beware of the Arizona Cardinals, that, the Rams being good, we thought San Fran would be better, but they've had a ton of injuries and COVID. But ultimately, I said Arizona is that sneaky team that's going to stick around, and that's exactly what they've done. They have not disappointed this year by any stretch of the imagination. The title for the NFC West is gone. However, we could see Arizona in the playoffs, or we could see the Rams in the playoffs. Here's what needs to happen. If Arizona wins, they're in. If they tie and Chicago loses, they're in. Los Angeles, if they win or tie, they're in. They're also in if Chicago loses or ties. So the Cardinals have to win. The Rams can tie. And if the Cardinals don't win, they have to tie and get a Chicago loss, where the Rams only need themselves to win or tie, or Chicago to lose or tie. The Rams have an easier road to get in, but it is still open for the Cardinals as well, Mike. What do you got?
Yeah, it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to this. As you said, Arizona's on the bubble right now. They're number 8 right now looking in. The Rams are 6 out of 7 teams right now. They're in, but they could be very much out. So this game has implications across the board here. I like Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown's going to get a lot of the carries because Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson are both going to be out. So he's number 5 on the rankings. He's been the touchdown vulture, but this is a guy who's going to get the touches. He didn't look as solid to me at the goal line in this last game, but I think the Ram is going to put up some good numbers this week, have him ranked again number 5. Looking at the rest of the team, I don't know if I could really start any of these guys outside of Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp, 56. Robert Woods, number 10 on the rankings. Tyler Higbee, number 20. And John Wolford, not Jared Goff. Jared Goff breaking and dislocating the thumb on his throwing hand, had surgery, says and claims that he might be back for week 1 of the playoffs. That's yet to be seen. It'd be interesting to see how he can grip the ball with that, recently fixed thumb in just a couple of weeks. To me, you're out a lot longer than that, but hey, what do I know? Hey, Kyler Murray, though, he got injured just below the right knee. It looked a lot worse than it supposedly is. They're still questionable, but he's number 9 on my rankings. I think he's going to make the field. Deandre Hopkins playing out of his mind all year, number 6 on the rankings. I don't feel confident in starting any of the other wide receivers. I know Christian Kirk has been up there at times, but he's been spotty at best, so I can't start any of the tight ends there as well. So the running backs kind of helping each other football-wise, helping the team football-wise, but not helping fantasy players. Right now I got Drake and Edmonds, 31 and 36 respectively. And looking at this game, you can almost say, well, which team is the home team? Well, it's going to be the Rams. And for that reason, I'm going to take the Rams.
Yeah, this is a very interesting game because of the situation at core. I mean, with everything going on in the backdrop, but then you have to look at the quarterback situation. And this is going to make things ultimately dicey for the Rams in this matchup, because they're going to have to be playing without, Jared Goff, and that's going to put themselves in a very, very interesting season. John Wolford is now the Rams starting quarterback, and people want to know, who is John Wolford? And well, John Wolford, folks, for those of you that don't know, I covered him in college. He played quarterback at Wake Forest. He was, this is his first season in the NFL, and he was born 10 years after me and 5 days before on October 16th, 1995. John Walford, the starting quarterback. Don't count him out, folks, but I will tell you this. I think Arizona's going to win this game. Now, I think Arizona's going to win this game because Arizona is in a situation right now where you're playing up against John Walford, and John Walford being in his first starts ever in the NFL. So that is going to be a unique situation. Now, he could come away with it and do something incredible. Now, Kyler Murray, he is questionable. Now, if he doesn't play, they have Chris Streveler that would be behind him. Raise your hand if you know Chris Streveler. I love when I say raise your hand on the radio because people will raise their hands and we can't see them, Mike, but it still makes me happy because it's kind of like that Simon Says you can't help but raise your hand. So if Kyler Murray does play, he's worth the play. And then Kenyon Drake with Chase Edmonds being on the injury report with a hip injury, that gives Kenyon a little bit more value. DeAndre Hopkins is hurt as well with an upper body injury, which improves the status of Christian Kirk and Larry Fitzgerald. Ultimately, the value's in Kenyon Drake. If DeAndre plays, then he has the value in Kyler Murray as well. But these are ifs. You have to watch them. On the other side with the Rams, the value lies with Malcolm Brown, Robert Woods, and Josh Reynolds as a flex. Cooper Kupp is on the COVID list. If he's taken off of it, then there's some value there. This is a very dangerous and dicey game. It can go either way. Mike's picking the Rams. I'm going to go with Arizona because Arizona has a shot of having their quarterback play. But if Kyler Murray's not in this game, you could see me say right before the game that I'm going with the Rams. I'm leaning on Kyler Murray playing in this matchup, which is why I'm making the pick I'm making. If he does not, then I could very well see it go the other way. Seattle at San Fran, Mike, what do you got?
Yeah, it's an interesting game because I don't think San Fran should have won last week with the roster they had. They were kind of depleted. George Kittle did come back, gave him a boost. He had 4 receptions and 92 yards, and they're going to lean on him heavy this week as well, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Seattle's going to take this game. Looking at both teams, Seattle's in, but they're going to want to be number one, of course, and I don't know if that's going to happen. But I got Russell Wilson, number 7 on the rankings. Chris Carson, number 13. Carlos Hyde, 56. DK Metcalf, number 8. Tyler Lockett, number 21. And Will Dissly, number 45. So I see that they're going to run the ball. They're going to throw the ball. They're going to play Seattle football here. On the other side of the ball, they got Brandon Ayuk is going to be out this week. He was the sole bright spot. But then you had George Kittle coming back. I don't even know why he came back. There's nothing to be gained. But, he wants to play. They want him to play. He's going to be the receiver. He's number 3 on my tight end rankings. Meanwhile, I got Kendrick Bourne and Richie James in the 40s and 50s. Can't start those cats. But Jeff Wilson, big week last week. Saw that coming. If you're one of my premium customers, you saw that coming. You gained a lot of value and some money in both daily and your championship because he was a spark for a lot of my players. Number 14 on the rankings this week, Jerick McKinnon, number 47, and C.J. Beathard going to get the start again at 27. I look at both rosters and I say, how can Seattle not win this game? Well, number 1, it's on the road, and number 2, it's the end of the year, and everybody's got bumps and bruises and injuries. I just don't see Russell cooking anything other than a victory in San Fran.
Yeah, Seattle at San Fran for me. I got to go with Seattle as San Fran's been dealing with injuries all year long and COVID issues. I told you, and they've had to play their season in Arizona. They go out to Arizona and they say, hey, guess what? You guys are staying there because you can't come back home. So it's been very, very interesting to see the unfortunate happenings of the San Francisco 49ers. Seattle, on the other end, is getting it done, and they're doing a fantastic job. So I think, Seattle has a chance of getting the number 1 seed in the NFC, but unlike Green Bay and New Orleans, which are different and don't need as much, Seattle's already in the playoffs at 11-4, but they need to win, and Green Bay needs to lose, and New Orleans needs to lose or tie. So 3 things need to happen for Seattle to get the number 1 seed in the NFC, but we know that they're in it already no matter what. They're currently at 3, which would have them in this situation at this point. they would be playing the Los Angeles Rams. So they'd be playing their third game against the Rams this season if things stand the way that they are right now. Seattle's value, Russ the Bus, got to play him, got to play Chris Carson. DK and Tyler Lockett, all worth the play. Jacob Hollister as a sneaky tight end too. On the other side of it for San Francisco, Jeff Wilson Jr. is worth the play, and George Kittle. I'm with Mike. I don't know why they're playing George Kittle, but listen, they got him out there. They're going to let him go. If he's out there, then he can give you some fantasy value. You should be happy if you're a fantasy owner and you got him. The team is 6-9. They didn't have a horrible year, but what did I say? It would be great to see what it would be like to have a fully healthy year for Jimmy Garoppolo. And what happened? They went to the Super Bowl. Now this year, injured again and all the other issues. No Jimmy Garoppolo, not a lot of success. Seattle winning the game and moving forward, but they need help to win the NFC. New Orleans in the run for the NFC title, top seed number 1. They're going up against the Panthers on the road. What do you got, Mike?
Yeah, New Orleans putting up 52 at home last week was huge. And you got the Panthers squeaking by Washington last week by 7 on the road. You know, I look at, you know, the Panthers and I wonder how are they winning any games with all the challenges they have with their roster. And I look at the Saints and I'm like, how can they lose games with the talent on their roster? There's a lot of value here on the number 2 level. The guy who's the number 2, and I mean number 2 overall ranked guy, Alvin Kamara, number 2 on my ranking, 6 touchdowns last week. Insane. If you had Alvin Kamara on your team and you happen to be in the playoffs or championship, obviously you won last week. Jerick Cook making up for the deficiency in the receiving core with Michael Thomas being out. He gets bumped up to number 14, and Emmanuel Sanders number 27. And I got Taysom Hill. Looks like he's going to be the guy here. Taysom Hill, yes, Taysom Hill, you've heard me right. Now, this is very early in the week, but I got Drew Brees at 16 and Taysom Hill number 34. I think there's going to be a lot more mixing Taysom Hill in the mix here. And on Carolina's side of the ball, Teddy Bridgewater 21, DJ Moore 24, Robbie Anderson 17, and Curtis Samuel 22, and Mike Davis 27. Christian McCaffrey not going to make the game. I can't start Ian Thomas at 43. Looking at the guys I'm starting on both sides of the ball, I got to take New Orleans in this game, even though they're on the road at Carolina. I just think they're the more talented team. New Orleans, something to play for as far as playoff seeding. Carolina's got nothing to gain here. I'm going to take New Orleans in this game on the road.
Yeah, I got to take New Orleans in this game as well. You know, I believe that New Orleans will be able to figure it out and find a way to get the dub in this matchup. I have to take him in the matchup, as we know that there's a lot of value. 6 touchdowns from Alvin Kamara, insane. 22 carries, 155 yards, 7 yards a carry. Because you look at it and you go, how the heck did this team score 52? Drew Brees didn't throw a touchdown pass, and he threw 2 interceptions. They had 7 rushing touchdowns, 1 from Taysom Hill, the other 6, yes, 6. Mike did not stutter, neither am I. 6 touchdowns coming from Alvin Kamara. It looks like a normal day at the office when you look at 22 carries, 155 yards. You're like, okay, that makes sense for Alvin. But then 6 touchdowns, not 2, not 3. Fantastic and phenomenal. Congratulations to Mr. Kamara as he continues to work himself up the list here, can catch out of the backfield and all the good stuff. So, big fan of Alvin Kamara. The value on the side of it, Drew Brees, Taysom Hill gets value too. You see that they've won with him and that they continue to use him as a part of the offense. They brought him in for a couple passes. They brought him in to run the ball. He got a touchdown on the ground. So I think it makes them very unique and maybe best prepared to play the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I like Taysom Hill. I like Brees. I like Alvin Kamara in this matchup. Jerick Cook gets some love as well. Emmanuel Sanders, not bad. Latavius Murray got almost 100 yards. I put him in a flex position. The crazy thing about New Orleans is that they have like no receivers. Traquan is hurt, Deontay is hurt, Bonnie's hurt, and Michael Thomas obviously is. We don't know what he is. We just know that he hasn't been playing the majority of the season. So there's a lot of value. Think about that. With not having their top receiver and arguably the best receiver in the country in Michael Thomas, and not having a lot of healthy receivers in general, this team's been able to get it done, and it gives more value to Taysom Hill if they don't have the receivers, because you could plug and play him anywhere. So Latavius' value goes up, Taysom's goes skyrocket, Alvin Kamara, Drew Brees, Jerick Cook, all up there. On the other side for Carolina, Teddy Bridgewater, is back and playing and doing his thing in his first season with the team. He will play against his old team that he helped lead to the playoffs and take care of business and take care of the keys to the car when Drew Brees was out injured last year. So a shout-out to Teddy. That helped him get a job where he is right now at Carolina, arguably. Christian McCaffrey is questionable. I don't know why they'd play him in this game. So Mike Davis and Robbie Anderson, as well as DJ Moore as a wide receiver 3, I'd probably say. They all have value in this matchup, but I'm going with New Orleans. I don't know how you can't go with New Orleans in the game. We'll take our final step aside of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for the day. When Mike and I come back, we will wrap things up with 2 games left on the docket, and I'm happy to say that we'll be able to bring those to you and have some fun here as we finish things up in Week 17. 2 more games left on the schedule. Mike and I, right after this, will talk about those games here where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. We want to thank you for being a part of the show, and in the meantime, make sure you go to HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com and bookmark it. Go to WakeUpCallDT.com, bookmark that, and join us on our winning fantasy football group on Facebook.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecubal.com. Cafe Cubal, coffee for the soul.
Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way up there Tuesday through Sunday. They now have, toward the end of the week, their restaurant is open inside. And during the week, they have the general store open for the local products, the local honeys and soaps and all different kinds of creations you can get right there inside of the Millhouse Market. And, of course, Tuesday through Sunday, you can go right up to their drive-up window, grab your food, and go. Download their app today by searching Millhouse Market on the Google Play or Apple App Store. Once you have that, you'll have everything at your fingertips, easy to access, contactless pay, and like I said, that drive-up window to grab your food and go. Bonding with our community, bonding with the history of Pulaski, and bonding with our taste buds. The Millhouse Market, whether you're 30 miles, 100 miles, or just 1 mile down the road, they are absolutely worth the drive every time. 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. With that being stated, Mike and I are firmly finishing up here the final week of the regular season in the NFL. When it comes to the Fantasy Football Power Hour, you know where to go. Right here, brought to you by the Wildcats Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. You can call them for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery, as well as catering at 315-487-2222. And they bring you the Fantasy Football Power Hour every single week, all year long, on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Mike and I have 2 games to go. The Titans and the Texans have huge implications, not for the Texans, but yes, for the Titans. The Titans are in a situation where they're still fighting to win their division, like the Colts, and fighting to get in the playoffs, like the Colts. They win the division of the AFC South if they win, or Indy loses, or they tie and Indy ties. They'll get in the playoffs if Baltimore loses, Miami loses, they tie and Cleveland loses, they tie and Miami loses, or pardon me, they tie and Miami ties, or they tie and Baltimore ties. So Tennessee doesn't have to win to get in the playoffs, but they do have to win their division. Interesting scenario for the Titans. What do you have, Mr. Sofka?
Yeah, both teams coming off disappointing games last week. We knew that you could run on the Texans. I didn't know they were going to let Brandon Allen from Cincinnati, put up 371 yards and 2 touchdowns on them. That's just disgusting. How can you do that, Houston? I don't blame J.J. Watt for coming out and questioning the integrity and the professionalism of other players on the team. You know, if you can read between the lines, that's what he was saying last week. If you haven't seen it, go find it. You know, he's a consummate professional. I respect J.J. Watt. I think he did the right thing in calling some people out. They have a home game here. They have a reason and a way to end on a high note. I'm just question if they're able to do it. They do have some of the players in place to do it. I'm looking at Houston, and I see Deshaun Watson, number 2 on my rankings. David Johnson, number 10 on my rankings. Brandon Cooks, number 18. Kiki Kuti, number 28. And Jordan Atkins, number 22. On the other side of the ball for Tennessee, these guys mean business, and these guys are guys you should be playing this week in daily as well. Ryan Tannehill, number 3. Derrick Henry, number 3. A.J. Brown, number 5. Corey Davis, number 19. And Jonnu Smith, number 8 on the rankings. Lots of fantasy money there on Tennessee's side of the ball. I think they're going to put up some numbers. I think J.J. Watt's speech is going to bring this game closer than people think, but I think Tennessee is going to prevail, and Tennessee is the side that you want for the fantasy players as well.
Yeah, Tennessee in this situation, obviously if they take care of business, then they're good and they're set to go. They don't need to win to get in the playoffs, but they need to win if they want it. Winning, like I said before, winning will help them to clinch the AFC South. All they have to do is win. Or if Indy loses, or if Tennessee ties and Indy ties. So there's a lot of different ways they could do it. I think that they can wrap it up themselves. I trust them to do that. I'm picking Tennessee in this game. Mike, we said how lopsided of a trade it was to let go of David Johnson to bring in DeAndre Hopkins. Bill O'Brien gets fired during the season as the GM and the head coach. So they're looking for 2 positions filled by one person, and I don't know if either one of them was filled well. When you get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best wide receiver, it's either him or Michael Thomas, as some people are Devontae Adams. But we look at DeAndre Hopkins going to Arizona, and you don't even get a receiver. You get David Johnson to come the other way. He's been underwhelming, and we've seen that Kenyon Drake can take over in Arizona and be just fine with David Johnson, formerly a number 1, number 2, top 4 fantasy running back. It was a lopsided trade that made no sense on paper, and in reality, it was a lopsided trade that made no sense. And with that being stated, the Houston Texans are not reaping the benefit from making any type of good decision. They're 4-11. We'll put it to you like this. Arizona is 8-7 with playoff hopes. Houston's 4-11 and they've been eliminated. And if Jacksonville wasn't that bad, Houston would be the worst in the division. So there you go. Tennessee, 10-5, fighting for the opportunity to take home the AFC South title. In this matchup, with so many things on the line, obviously I like Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. Corey Davis as a sneaky flex for you. Jonnu Smith scored his 8th touchdown of the season recently here. I think he's worth the play in the game. Houston, Deshaun Watson is hurt. If they don't play him, he's questionable. A.J. McCarron looks like he'd take over. I don't see a lot of value on this team. If Deshaun plays, then I see value in Kiki Kuti and a little bit in I see some value in Brandon Cooks and some value in Deshaun Watson, but I think most of it lies in Tennessee. I wouldn't be surprised if they win in the 40s and they hold, if they score 45 and they hold Houston to 10. I could see that game happening. The value's on Tennessee's side, the win's on Tennessee's side. You know what to do, folks. Make the smart pick. Final game of the season, and we saw a little change here. The NFL must have been listening to you and I and other fans around the country when they started changing up their schedule, saying we're going to rotate this game, move this game over here, play a little bit of, a little bit of musical chairs until we get this thing right. And they put a game that has playoff implications as the last game of the season, the Sunday Night Football game, Philadelphia and Washington going up against one another. That game is going to be played in Philadelphia. And Washington, if they win, this is what it looks like. Philadelphia is the only team eliminated from the NFC. But if Washington wins, they're in and they clinch the NFC East title. If they don't win, they have to tie and Dallas has to lose or tie. So Washington wins, it's settled. If they do not, then as I told you before, Dallas has to win and Washington has to lose or tie, or Dallas ties and Washington loses. So Dallas needs Washington to lose no matter what. All Washington has to do is win. What do you have, Mike?
Yeah, it's a lot easier said than done when your top receiver's suffering through a high ankle sprain and, you just let go your number one draft pick from 2 years ago and got nothing in return. You waived him, and he cleared waivers in Dwayne Haskins. Nobody even, tried to pick him up, so that makes him a free agent at this point. He can sign with whoever he wants. Look for John Gruden, the quarterback collector, to jump on that, or Bill Belichick, because these guys are the people that think they can always change players, and sometimes they do. More times than not, they don't. We talked about Dwayne Haskins a week previous. I talked about him last week and compared him to Jameis Winston, making poor decisions. And if you heard Ron Rivera talk, the maturity issues were coming through, and that's what maturity issues do. They make you make bad decisions. When you make bad decisions, both on and off the field, you cannot be the leader of the team. This is the NFL. This is billions of dollars at stake. They're not going to give you the keys to the billion-dollar car unless you can pass certain levels of maturity on both on the field and off the field. Looking at Philadelphia, Dallas really wants Philadelphia to win. Well, you can find some fantasy value in these guys for sure, and that's led by Jalen Hurts, number 10 quarterback on my rankings. Carson Wentz's days are done in Philadelphia. And you look at Miles Sanders, number 19 on the rankings, and Dallas Goedert, number 10 on the rankings. The challenge is the receiver core. You don't know who it's going to be or when they're going to be. Deshaun Jackson made a return, though, last week, so that's interesting. I don't know if I can start him. I don't think I can start Rager or Fulgham or Jeffrey or Ward or any of these guys. They got talent. It's just I can't start these guys. They haven't done anything, and I'm not sure they're going to do anything. On the other side of the ball, Washington's hampered. Terry McLaurin, suffering through that high ankle sprain, number 30 on the rankings if he takes the field. The guy who's going to be the number one target, especially in the red zone for Washington, is Logan Thomas, the tight end, number 6 on the rankings. Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick both worth a play at 20 and 22. So if you can get those guys in a flex position for you, that's going to be great. And Alex Smith, number 26 on the rankings. As much as I want to see Philadelphia win this game and spoil things for everybody and get the Cowboys into the playoffs, I think somehow, some way, Washington's going to figure out a way to play defense like they can and then run the ball like they can and get those short passes to J.D. McKissick. I see Washington sneaking out a victory here.
Yeah, I see football team winning this game. Oh, you wanted to know which one? Well, I thought I answered it because they still don't have a name, Mike. It's been weeks. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. If a team makes a playoff that doesn't even have a name, what does that mean? I don't know. But let's start with Washington. Alex Smith, if he is unable to go, he's questionable right now. Taylor Heineke would be playing. But Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick, Antonio a running back 3, McKissick a running back flex position for you as well. I would say Terry McLaurin, he's also hurt. He's doubtful for the game. That leaves it's kind of like building you're trying to build a team from injured players, and you build things on your computer with the game Sims. Well, you got Cam Sims and Steven Sims to try and build something in Washington. The best thing for Dallas is that there's a lot of guys injured on this team. The bad thing for Dallas is that this injury-laden Washington team that's falling into this game is playing a Philadelphia team that's not that good. However, Jalen Hurts is got the fantasy value. Miles Sanders has the fantasy value. Deshaun Jackson decided to play the last game of the season. That's good. So to finally see him out there. Zach Ertz able to play as well. So with Ertz, Sanders, and Hurts, I think that the value is on Philadelphia's side. I think Washington is capable. I think Washington can. But I'm going to pick Philadelphia in this game because I just don't see how a depleted Washington team that's gone through, I can't see it. I really can't. If Alex Smith was healthy to go, then I could tell you yes. But I can't see Washington pulling it off against Jalen Hurts because I think Jalen can score more points, and I think Philadelphia, honestly, I put it on Jalen. I think he can have a big-time fantasy type of week, and I think that that's going to be the difference. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia in the matchup. With that being said, Mr. Sofka, we have gotten through an entire regular season of fantasy football. We did it. We found a way, some way, somehow, and I'm thankful to God more than anything that we were able to get here, get through it, and for players and coaches to be healthy and to be safe. And when it comes to Washington, my prayers, my hopes, and my well wishes to Ron Rivera to defeat cancer once and for all, and for everybody to defeat cancer and whatever is ailing them today, tomorrow, and always. Mike, as always, I thank you. Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, and, of course, our joint Winning Fantasy Football group on Facebook. I appreciate you. I thank you. And I applaud you for all the work that you put in this year and you'll continue to put in as you and I believed and decided to have hope, believing that the impossible was possible when this season was in question.
Yeah, this has been a tumultuous year. It's been something you really had to pay attention to. You had to keep your thumb on what's going on the pulse of the NFL and the players and the COVID situations and so forth. But looking back on this year, I find it to be challenging, but it feels good when you make it through a challenge. No matter how high the mountain, no matter how big the obstacle, after you make it over that, you're like, wow, and you feel really good and energized and pumped up, and hopefully we can have a better 2021, I should say. And, Happy New Year to everyone. And my work continues. I'm right now looking ahead to next year's dynasty players, who I'm going to keep, who I'm not going to keep, who I'm going to sign, who I'm not going to sign. So if you're a dynasty player, follow along with me at Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. And as always, you can always field questions, put out questions, and get additional content and assistance at the Facebook group Winning Fantasy Football. Dan, as always, thank you so much, and I look forward to speaking with you again next week.
I will talk with you, Mike, officially, God willing, in the new year of 2021. And so I wish you a Happy New Year. Once again, a happy birthday, a Merry Christmas again as well. And I cannot thank you enough for all that you do. So may you have the happiest of New Year's and the best end to 2020 that you possibly can have.
Thank you, Dan. You as well. And I look forward to speaking with you next week.
Sounds good. That coming from Mr. Mike Sofka here, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are all set on today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bringing you an extra hour pretty much here in the Fantasy Football Power Hour. I want to thank Alex Dodd for Hour 1, and I want to thank Mike Sofka for Hour 2 and the Wildcat for this Fantasy Football Power Hour partnership. You can listen and watch Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday by going to mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, our live internet streaming radio feed around the world, and of course watch on facebook.com/livenowdt, and these videos being added to YouTube after that to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. You can search the archives besides YouTube. You can also find Wake Up Call's audio versions by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or all one word, Wake Up Call DT, on MixLR, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Podbean, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And I want to thank my proud partners in business here in the community. Please, now more than ever, they appreciate and need your support. Central and upstate New York, head to Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Avicoli's, where you can use the promo code AVS10 at myavicoli's.com. The best veal you'll find that I have found in this community in a very long time. Go to myavicoli's, AVICOLLIS.com, and use the promo code AVS10. That's AVS10 for 10% off at myavicoli's.com. Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Trapper's Pizza Pub, the Millhouse Market, and Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. If I didn't say Honda City, if I did, I'll say it again, Honda City of Liverpool. MonPazPopcorn.com is the website you go to. And from anywhere in this country, any one of the 50 states, if you order at MaandPazPopcorn.com and use my personal promo code DT20, I will get you 20% off any of your orders. That's DT20, DT20, so make sure you utilize that. In the meantime, I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all for being a part of the show. We will wrap up this week tomorrow, as on New Year's Day, we will have the day off. So New Year's Eve, we look forward to seeing you. tomorrow for the final day and my dad's birthday as he turns 66 on December 31st of 2020. The final day of the year will be spent here on Wake Up Call inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. In the meantime, find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And as I always tell you, God bless, no stress, do your best. We'll talk soon.